It's the story of what really happened in Sherwood Forest.
The real story. This freaking the best, one of the best intros to any Disney freaking movie. Oh, look at that handsome, cute little pie right there with the hat on. Such a stud muffin. Oh, oh, did you get something in there? Oh man. Well, little John was just up there. Yeah, that's an old oldie but a goodie. I could listen to that all 2 minutes before I'm like turn this off. Um. Okay. I was thinking I should probably tell you what really happened on my fan interview because it's actually quite a funny story. It starts off on a dark, gloomy night. It was night. I don't know if it was gloomy. Um, I was at my parents' house. 'Cause that's the number I gave them. They had the landline. And, you know, they were like, use a landline. No cell phones. It's like, oh, good. Good. I like landlines. Um, so, 9 o'clock on the Sunday, 31st March, was my phone interview. And so I'm sitting at my house. You know, my dad, my mom was there, my girl's there. Actually, a friend of the family was there, Jim, and they're all like, we're just all hanging out. It's just kind of like what we do on Sundays. We hang out from like probably about 4 to like 9. Watch 60 minutes, and it's pretty fun. It's just relax and chill. So they're all like, I'm going over my stuff. I'm going over my stuff because I want to kind of sound professional. You know, I'm gonna goof around and say whatever, just joke around. But yeah, I was kind of going over my stuff. You know, gotta stay sharp. So I'm going over my stuff around 8. I'm like, oh, this is what my past job, and I was like, I know they're gonna ask those tricky questions, like every interview. Have you ever been in and asked a tricky question? And I'm never bad at them, because I just, you know, worst comes worst, just make it up. Like they don't know if it's true or not. But I mean, for people that that need to do that need help, just make it up if you have to. Like they'll never know the truth. That's a word. That's a tip. I can give you tips. So I'm waiting. 9 o'clock rolls around. No one calls. I'm like, I guess like seriously, it was like 9:10. Phone hasn't rang, and then everyone's like, all right. Kind of got distracted because everyone was like planning on like leaving. That was at my house, like my girlfriend and Jim, my friend of the family, and everyone also I was like walking them out to the door, and I was like, all right. They're like, well, sorry about your phone review. You know, they're saying like it's all right. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I wasn't too worried about it. And it was like that's fate, you know. Like if that doesn't happen, whatever. And and then like phone rings, and I was like clearly thinking they were gonna call. So like even I know it was like 10 minutes. I didn't even think I was like they're not calling. And it just slipped my mind. It was like gone like that. I was like, my dad hands me the phone like, it's for you, and I'm like, whoa, my heart dropped because all my preparation have like it went away. Like I zoned out or something. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry to call you. She's like, I know people. I call people late all the time, and she's like, when I call people late, I don't want people to freak out. I'm really sorry. She's like, oh, and I wasn't like freaking out. I was just like kind of like freaking out now because like all my prep work was like thrown out the window. So now we're down the wire, which that's when I excel the wire. Um, she's like, sorry. And I'm like, ah, don't worry about it. And she's like, blah blah blah, and she's like, well, I see you're from Kentucky. My parents live in Kentucky. I'm in Cincinnati a lot for school, and my girlfriend lives up there. She's like, oh, I see you're from Kentucky, and I was like, yeah. I live in northern Kentucky, Covington, and she's like, I'm actually I live in Kentucky. I don't know if she meant she used to live in Kentucky or like she lives there now. Maybe I don't know. She said she lives in Lexington, which is like an hour drive from my house to Lexington. And people go to Lexington a lot, and Lexington people come to Cincinnati a lot. Cities are pretty nice. They're not that too far of a drive, so you know. And I big UK blue, so like I could connect with her on like a personal level right away. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And we talked about that for like just a couple split seconds. She sounded like she was in a rush. Like maybe the last Finn interviewer was like taking a long time. She's like, I'm sorry, because I don't know, I guess whoever's before me wanted to chit chat, talk. She probably didn't sit in him. She probably gave him the red light, like, or her, or whoever. Like, you're talking way too much. Red light, you're not going nowhere. So she's like, yeah, I can't believe that. That's really interesting. I guess she's taking calls from all around the country. Maybe, if I wanted to be an hour away, whoa, I was like, that's a great start. Because Kentucky people always help out Kentucky people. Especially when we were connecting like that. I thought she was going to marry me. That's how much she loved me from the start. So, we're talking, chit chatting. She's asking me about the roles. And I checked off a few things. I don't know. I was like lifeguard and stuff, and food and beverage. I basically checked them all off. I didn't care. I was like, just put me in one of them. Like, I'll do work. Because I don't want to care. I just want to go down there. And I want to experience Disney. So she asked me about all of them. I said something to say. She's like, "Why swim in?" I remember this one. She's like, "So do you have lifeguarding experience?" I was like, "Nope, I don't. But I've been swimming my whole life." When that is true, as you see up there, those are swimming trophies, and I've been on the swim team my whole life, from the YMCA to high school. But I've never been a lifeguard. My brother has, and all my friends have. Just haven't actually had time to do it. I've always been doing something else. But I was like, I know the lifeguard training. It's like swim, a couple, like a mile or something laps, and like hold your breath. I was like, I do that all the time just for fun. I'm like, so like and I know that because I was reading a swimming thing. Yeah. I was like, I know you got to pass your own test down there. I was like, I could do that easy. I was like, that ain't no thing. So I was like, that's why I checked that one. And she's like, okay, well, why did you take food and beverage? I was like, because I'm a server, and that's my job. I'm a banquet server, and I'm a server. So I was like, that just comes easy. She asked me if I ever dealt with money, and I was like, is that what does that mean? I've ever dealt with money. It's like, yeah, I deal with money every day. I always, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, I deal with money. I didn't say it like that. I was kind of baffled. Like, yeah, I did. I didn't get angry with her at all. So don't make it. I'm not trying to make it sound like that. It's like, yeah, I always deal with money. I was like, I'm a server. It's like I get paid, paychecks. And I get cash. I get money. I was telling her all that. She's like, I know. I just got to ask these questions. Like, yeah, that's cool. And she's like, well, what is the most challenging thing for you when you're working? And I was like, the work isn't challenging. And then she's like, she's like, oh, okay, she still kept saying okay. But I said something that's like the most challenging for me is to keep my in scope goals, but also be aware of the out scope problems, such as like the customers, like, oh, I told a story about like how I was doing my thing, working at serving, and I was like, this lady tripped down a step, made it up. I was like, I had to render what my priority was, getting the food out to help this customer. I was like, they're gonna eat this up. So I was like, I go help this old lady up, and I made sure she was alright, and I was taking care of her until she medically was alright, or she said she was fine, and cause cause I was like, that's how I am, and if that really happened, I would really do that. It just so happened that story's never happened, but that's what I would do. Like, I don't, you can get your coffee 2 minutes late. This lady fell. That's what I would do. What, or guy, doesn't matter. Um, so I told a story that hasn't happened, but if it did happen, that's what I would do. Um, what else? And she was asking me questions like, "Have you ever worked on a microphone before?" I was like, "Actually, I have. I have worked on a mic before. I used to work when I was like a couple years back. I used to work at this place called Eastgate Adventures, and I had to get on the microphone for the go karts. Buckle your seatbelts. Do not bump. And I was like, yeah. I was like, that was all microphone work. She's like, how was that talking to the customers? Well, I was like, I'm not gonna lie. I said, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, the first time was kind of weird. I was kind of nervous, like, don't bump, don't bump. And I was like, and then like, I was like, and it took me a few tries and I'm just like rolling with it. Like, I was talking, it's like, I even got creative with it. Like, I would say it on, she's like, yeah. We were connected. We're Kentuckians. So, like, she was feeding off everything I said. Oh, I forgot the most funny part. The phone disconnected during our interview. Wow. Yeah. I don't know how. My landlines never disconnect. I was so in the middle of somewhere of these questions, the phone disconnected. I'm on the phone. I'm talking like through one of my stories. Like she was telling, it disconnected. Went beep, beep, beep. I'm like, I was like, what? Couldn't hear her. I don't think she could hear me. And I hung up, and I'm like, and I was like, got called late. Now the phone disconnected, and out of all this craziness, there is beautiful involved in it because my story is pretty interesting and original, and I like it like this. She's like, she called back like a minute later. She's like, oh, could you hear what I was saying? And I was like, no, I couldn't. She's like, I couldn't hear you. I'm like, yeah, that was weird. I'm like, I'm using a landline, and that's never happened. She's like, yeah, that was really weird. She's like, she's like, I was telling you stuff like hang up the phone, I'm gonna call you back. I couldn't hear her say that, so that's another funny part of this awesome phone interview I had. And I'm not gonna lie, I like it like this because it adds originality to it. It's not just that average phone interview that you don't want. You don't want to be average. You want to stand out. So I know mine was stand out for a couple different reasons. So I forgot to tell you about that. And then at the very end, she did say something like, she's like, Josh, it normally takes 2 weeks and you would get your acceptance. Since I had a background check, because I got DUI a while back, which sucked. Never get one again, and I haven't. And I told her, I talked to her about that. And she made it sound like they didn't judge. I was like, how could you not? So I don't know. If I don't get accepted, that's the only reason would be my DUI. Because I rocked everything else. She said that didn't matter. She said her exact words were like, yeah, it will take. It usually she said you would get your notice in 2 weeks. She didn't say 4 or 3. She didn't tell me none of that. She said 2, and she said because you got that, we want you to fax. I had to fax my background check to Florida to this guy, and she sent me an email like in a day. I don't know if it was actually her, or she did something where somebody sent me an email the next day. So now we're in January. Oh, well, she said, stay tuned. Did she say that to anybody else? Was she just playing? Was she just pulling my chains? Probably. I don't know. I hope not. And then, yeah, they sent me that email to send my papers in. And I did that. I filled them all out. There was like 3 of them. Clean history. And I had to put down like if I moved and stuff. And I sent that in a few days later. So by now I sent all this stuff in like January, February. January, February. I don't know. Okay, so I sent them in like March 4th. I sent them in. So I hope. She said that it would take about 6 weeks because of those papers. Otherwise, it would take me 2 weeks. So that's it. Sorry the video took forever. 14 minutes. Holy crap. Be patient. I didn't mean to say crap. This is Disney Channel. I wish I could erase that, actually. Sorry. But I'm getting real, so. So now I'm waiting. So we'll see. And if anyone else would like to say, tell me if any of that stuff sounds familiar with your friend interview if you want. You don't have to. Or just think about it in your head. Alright, thanks. Sorry about the long video. I wish I could delete some of the minutes.